Hi. Now that you've had a chance to practice some of the techniques we've already covered, in this section I would like to discuss some of the more frequently asked questions and problems many students have. The first would be the swirl, which we saw earlier. The difficulty is holding the sharp edges and bringing them all together in the center. It's not uncommon to see a student undercut these sharp ridges and lose the whole design. So let me show you how I draw the swirl and carve it. The first thing that you want to do is draw a line across the board, find the center of it, then take your compass. This happens to be set at 1 3/8 radius. And draw a circle and come on out to your border here. Just draw halfway through the center and pick it up on the edge and follow all the way around like this. Now the next thing you want to do is divide this into thirds, and you can kind of guess at it like that and adjust it as you go around. This will make a swirl of 18 points to the center, and that seems to be just about right. If you get more than that, it gets too busy in appearance and difficult to execute in the center. There, then the only thing that we have left to do is draw the scallops around the border. And you can do it without the scallops. I happen to like them. You don't have to be real accurate on this because a line is merely a reference. Now the first cut you want to make is this backside cut. Go down for your depth. This is the wide part of your cut. Go down for your depth, and then you pull out and roll the knife slightly upward as you come out. Now we're going to go shallow and deeper as we go along here. That's it. Make your next cut, this one here. You want that first cut right on the ridge. Stay right on the ridge. That'll make it look nice and crisp. Now I'll cut another one right here. Again, right up on that ridge, go for your depth, and then you can pull out as you roll around to the center. That way you're not undercutting in here. You start again, come straight down, just like that. Now the only thing that we have left to do is to cut the scallops around the exterior here. Don't put your blade in too deep. Just deep enough to take the whole chip out in one movement. Just like this. And that's how you do the swirl. The rest is carved exactly the same way. Now these sharp ridges are very important to other more geometric designs, such as this one here. You'll notice that this is all sharp ridges exactly the way the swirl was. This compares with this rosette up here. Instead of having a line in the center, this particular rosette has a diamond. Now this rosette can decorate either a box of this shape or it can decorate a plate. Now let me show you how I draw that particular rosette and carve it. As you can see, we've already drawn the circle here, and we have quartered it. Next thing that you want to do is take your compass and draw these circles. And once you have established these four, then you want to come outside, and you can measure from here on up to here. We got to move the point just a little bit. Get this one. You have to go outside of the circle to do it, and you can adjust your point as you go along. And the last one here. You don't want to forget these cross pieces here. And the same for here. Now this half we'll draw with the straight lines in it. This half we'll put the diamonds into it. So we're going to draw this one here. Just like that. All right, that's all you need for the straight lines. Now for the diamonds, first thing we'll do is get this across here because this is the same as the other side. Then what we want to do is establish the center lines on this in this fashion. There, now all we have to do is draw our lines across here. I'm just drawing squares with alternate diagonals, and that will make the diamonds in the center here. And one more here. Now I want to carve the more difficult side first. The background on both sides are exactly the same. Here we're going deep. As you notice, I come around the corner, I pull the knife out. That's shallow there, just a hint that we were there, and that'll come straight out. First cut away from what you've already done. Go down, come around. Now the next cut we want to make, we'll save these sections for last. Let's make this section in here next. Notice I'm very, very thin right in here. You don't want to cut too deep under here or you'll undercut it. Come all the way around. And just a little bit of cleanup right here. And we'll make our first cut here away from our previous chip. There we are. Now in order to get these diamonds out, this is a little bit different. What we're going to do, we're going to sink down. This is your wide part right here. Sink down, pull out right to this corner, and we start over again, and we go down for our depth. Turn your work around, go down for your depth, pull out to the corner, and start at the corner again, and go down. Then all you have to do is walk your knife around these four corners here, and this will come right out. Let's do that once more. Here we take the depth, pull out to the corner, put your point in, and go back down. This one here, go down, around to the corner, and then just walk your knife around like this. And the only thing we have left to do is the flip-flop on either side, which we can do just like this. Make this diamond stand out. The rest is carved exactly the same way. There, now if we were doing the straight edge cut here, as it is drawn, this is the same shape as this one here. What we would simply do, cut on this side here, cut straight down. You can see the difference immediately. Well, the first cut you're going to make is down the center away from what we've already done. Like that. And that's the difference between these two rosettes. Now, this particular rosette can also be done as a very fine border. It's laid out a little bit differently. Let me show you how it's drawn. Now the border is drawn a little bit differently. What we have here are 4 sections, each 4 millimeters each. That's also divided in 4 millimeters this way. And what we're after is a square, just like this. Here'd be your square, and then you have a square within the square, just like that. What we're going to do is draw around this corner here, down to this one. Same thing this way. We'll start here, and down this way. Now the next one will reverse itself. Here's the square that we're after. So we'll start like this, come around. Remember, it isn't really important that your pencil lines are accurate because you can correct that with your cutting as you carve. Here's your next section right here. There. Now in order to carve that, we're going to start by taking out the background first. So we'll start like this and take this background out. And notice that the thumb always stays against the handle of the knife, and what you want to do is keep that angle of the knife constant. Now the next thing we want to do is the same as we did before in the rosette, and cut this. Do the same thing on the other side. Right to the corner. And then we have our line that we can follow right around. This will create the diamond in the center. And you already have the lines to do the flip-flop. And there, now that's the diamond. Now if we were to do this as the other rosette was, with the straight line down the center, we'd start right here. Cut this edge here, turn it around, cut down the center, and we pick this one up over here, and take your final piece out like this. There, that would cut the diamond and the other rosette form. Now you can see the backgrounds are the same on these two. This is a little bit bolder because the chip is deeper and larger. This is a little more delicate, has a different feel to it. They're both cut the same way. Now, if you remember where we started, we were talking about these ridges and how important they are. That also happens in free form. We can take the same ridge here. We can do that in free form. It's just as important. What we'll do is make a tulip here. But you'll see that the ridges and the idea is exactly the same. Notice that I'm pivoting on my thumb as I cut along here. There you can see the ridges in the free form are the same as that in the border. Nice and crisp. Now, I could continue carving leaves and stems using a variety of movements very similar to this, and that would look very similar to this thistle. And of course, this is the kind of tulip that you see in this type of design over here. And as you can see, with these ridges, we're right back where we started from with the swirl in the beginning. Let's talk about lettering. It's an area that many students are interested in. With chip carving, you can do it very quickly, almost as quickly as writing. Let's start with a few examples from the Roman alphabet. To begin, we'll start with a grid of 1.5 inch squares for our lettering here. Now, many letters will fit within the full square, and there are some that will not, but it's a good guide to start with. We'll do the letter A. Do that, we want the center up here, and we're going to leave just a little bit of room on either side, like this, of the square. Now, the first leg on the letter A is a narrow leg like that. The other one is a wide one. So we'll give it a little bit of dimension. I like that, that's good. And then we have our cross piece. There, and then all we have to do is draw in the serifs, like this. The little feet make it look like it's grounded. And that uses the full square here. Now to cut that, first thing I want to do is to cut the bottom here, what some people call a stop cut. Because there's more width in here, I will go a little bit deeper, right like this, and then I can pull out as I finish this leg here. Turn around, take the second half off. Now this will be my next cut here. It's away from the cut that I've already made. It's a little bit wider, so we have to go a little bit deeper. Take this out. And then we'll cut the serifs. Now what you're going to do is aim for the center down here. And for the second cut of the serif, you notice I'm using the second position of the knife. There. And that'll finish up the letter A. Now the letter A is all straight lines. Let's try the letter B. Letter B has curves in it and presents a little bit different problem. This will be our serif here. And we find the center. I'd like to show you a quick, easy way of drawing that. We know we're going to come out to about this far and a little bit further on the bottom, so we draw a little arc here. And then the top one will just fade around into it like this. And we want about this much room here to come around. In that fashion. Now, the width here we want repeated over here. Then we'll blend this down into it, and this will come down. The thinness here, repeating this here, and the same thing right here. That's a quick, easy way to draw a B. You'll notice here that your verticals are wider, your horizontals are narrower, and that gives it a feeling of being supported. The same was the letter A. This one is wider and this one's narrower. Now to carve this, we want to cut your ends first, but we also want to make it in a smooth cut. So we'll cut all this at one time. So we go down for our depth, and we'll come around. Now I want you to notice I'm standing the blade up. Now here at this point, I'm going to make the transition of with the grain to against the grain. In order to make that in a smooth cut, you've got to stand your blade up and slip the blade out and forward at the same time as you go around the corner. Just like that. We'll do the same thing here. Stand the blade up. Here we are at that point of with the grain to against the grain. I'm slipping out and around. Now I can go back down for my depth and finish the cut. The next piece we want is this wide one. Go down for your depth. Then the next thing we want to do is come right around here. And here's where we slipped it up, so we can come back and take that out. That makes for a nice smooth cut around here. We'll do the same thing down here. And here's where we slipped it up on the bottom. Make it cut nice and smooth. Then all we have to do is cut our serifs. Again, you'll notice a second cut. I'm using a second position on the knife with my hand on the spine of the knife. There, that'll do the letter B. Now another letter that seems to have a little bit of a problem to it, and part of the problem is not so much its letter, but the way it's drawn, and that's the letter S. So let's take a look at the letter S. You know, the top has a curve to it, the bottom has a curve to it, and through the center, which is where your wide part is going to be, is drawn just like that. Then all you have to do is blend this one down into there, and this one will come around like this. Let's extend just a little bit like this, and this will go right up into here. And this one will extend a little bit further, come down, just like that. Now that'll do an S. Now let's carve it. First we want to do is cut these ends. Then we want to cut the back side here. Just turn the board around, come around from the other side. And make that nice and round right there. Yeah, that'll do it nicely for the letter S. Another letter that a lot of people have difficulties with, it's similar to the letter S, and that's the figure 8. It has a little bit different problem, so let's take a look at it. Begin with, let's draw a line here. And this is a quick, easy way of doing a figure 8. If you take two circles like this, you've got it almost entirely drawn, because what you're going to do is fade this one into here and this one down here. This will come right around, meet here. This one will come around on the top like this, and this comes around like this. So when you carve it, all in one sweep, turn your work. I'm standing the blade up to make that turn. And that'll do an S and an 8 for you. Here we have an example of the Roman lettering. You can see it's rather plain and easy to read. Compare that to the Old English B. It's a little bit more ornate and a little bit more complicated to carve. One of the things I like to point out is that you'll notice that the verticals on here are all wider and the horizontals are narrower. It's the same in the Roman lettering. This seems to be a general truth with most typefaces. Now let's carve an Old English B. There's no particular order in taking these out, but it's better to take the large pieces out first. So we'll start up here and cut this one here. Stand the blade up as we come around. Then we'll take this one here. And this little piece here, we want to go all the way down to the bottom 4. Make our turn here. There we are. And just clean this out here. And then we'll take this one up here next. Stand the blade up as we go around. Take the bottom piece here. I'm asked frequently if this is the pace that I normally carve at. And the answer is yes, this is about the pace to carve at. If you go too fast, you don't get accurate. And take this, there we are. Little piece right here. You'll notice as I cut across here, this is not a flip-flop motion. This is a full cut in here. Make sure that we get it all. And just kind of clean this up in here. Oh, that'll carve the Old English B. Now there's one more type of lettering I'd like to share with you, and that's a script form. Because of its flowing motion, it lends itself very nicely for doing monograms. If you connect the top and the bottom of the letters together, they work very nicely together in a monogram. The important thing in carving is to make your cut all in one movement so it flows nicely. You don't want to stop in between on your cuts. Start right at one end. One of the things you'll remember is on the real tight curves, you got to stand your blade straight up because you can't drag a lot of metal around a corner. And we'll come back from the other side. Now here you'll see I'm going to stand my blade almost straight up. I don't change the angle of it, but I do stand it up so I can get around the curve better. And it'll come right along with you. Then we catch the other part of the B. Notice how I turn the board a little bit. That's okay. Go a little bit deeper. This is going to be wider in here. I get this. Stand the blade up. This is one of the things that demonstrates the advantage of working on your lap. That you can continually move your board quickly. And turn your board around. You'll notice also I don't have the point real deep. You don't want to put it in any deeper than you have to. Now here is a good example. Notice I'm getting wider here because this is a vertical. And you notice as we go along here, the angle never changes, and the thumb doesn't come off of the handle of the knife. That'll keep you from cutting yourself. It's a very safe way to carve. Now we'll pick up the M. I like to get the wide part, or the verticals here, first. And pull out a little bit. Notice also it isn't very difficult to go across the cuts that you've already made. And we'll pick up the other wide one right here. And that'll do the monogram very nicely in the script style. Now that we've had an opportunity to see 3 different styles of lettering, let's see how they actually look in application. For this particular piece, I chose the Roman lettering. Roman lettering is rather simple, and the border that complements it is rather simple. They go together very nicely. Now let's contrast that to another style. Here we have a more elaborate border and a more elaborate rosette. I felt it called for a more ornate style of lettering, so we've used here the Old English. Or we can go in the other direction and take a very plain box and make it fancy with a script style of a monogram. I think even with all the projects that we've covered in this tape, you can see that this is only a beginning, but it is a great place to start your chip carving, and I'd like to wish you the best of luck.